Hey there, Ken French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Ken French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by.
Hey kids, we're going to be talking to someone who's written 13 books and he knows a thing or two about real estate. Bryce, hey, thanks for joining us there, buddy.
Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. Anyone who's written 13 books has either done a lot of AI, a lot of ghostwriting, or is just a boring dude because all he does is write.
Probably the first two or three of those. I don't think my life's been boring at all.
Yeah, I get it. I was kidding, obviously. So yeah, thanks for coming here. We're going to be hanging out for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, basically talking about ways, that you think we meaning real estate investors, entrepreneurs can, get rich or, make sure we don't lose a bunch of money. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get right into it because you are a player in the real estate world.
Let's go. So first off, thank you again for having me. I have came from the corporate industry. I've got a crazy testimony. As you can see, I wear kind of my brand on my body day in and day out. And through a series of what most would consider unfortunate events, I ended up in the automotive industry, and I was washing cars, and I begged my uncle for a shot to sell. And after about a year and a half of washing cars at a dealership, he put me on the team. And over the next 2 years, I became one of the number one car salesmen in the world back in the late 90s. And it was an interesting ordeal. No formal education, no formal financial literacy, anything like that. But I was recruited out of my dealership to put together some training programs. You might recognize a few if you drive by a Ford or Nissan dealership and you see, Blue Oval certified dealership or Nissan sales training, awards in their dealership. Those are our training programs that my partner and I put together. And, it was great. I was young. I had way too much money, didn't know what to do with it. And then, in 2006, the son, 2008, I lost a wife.
Oh, dude, sorry.
Yeah. It was, here I am young and learning life the hard way, right? Battling the demons in our head, as they say, and a lot of credibility and integrity and character building in those moments, and ended up homeless, actually.
How many years ago was this?
So this was 2006. My wife and I had a son that passed away. She took her life in 2008.
Dude.
Due to battling the depression.
Oh my gosh.
And between 2008 and mid-year 2010, I lost my marbles for, almost 2 years, and lost, millions of dollars, all my corporate contracts, and a lot of credibility in the corporate space, just dealing with what I was dealing with, and ended up homeless. And that's kind of where my testimony comes, right? September 28, 2011. After just getting custody of my kids back and kind of sobering up and getting my act together, I was just like, gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this. Wrote a letter to my son, wrote a letter to my mom, and decided I was going to take my life. And I pulled the trigger 3 times. And my gun jammed. Hasn't jammed before, hasn't jammed since. And that was the night that I came into my faith and started a relationship with my creator and God. I call him Jesus. You call him whatever you want. But that is my faith, and I stand by it. I witnessed, Lazarus out of the grave miracles. You fast forward from there, I found real estate through, like a lot of people, online looking for jobs, and you can make money with money with no money out of pocket. And I'm like, gosh, I've got a process that I've been very successful in the corporate business. Let's see if it works. And sure enough, my first 90 days in real estate, I closed 23 houses my first 45 days, and then 37 houses in my last, 25, 30 days there in that 90-day period. And then I'm like, gosh, I really don't know what I'm doing. And partnered with a few guys, built up their acquisition team, and sold that about 7 years ago. from the time of this recording. And man, the rest is history. Started traveling, speaking, sharing my story.
Wow.
Wrote 13 books in the last 8 years with masterminds, things like that. And yeah, so that's who I am. I've got a lot of corporate structural sales training experience, and now I'm just trying to live the dream, right? Building a new company as we speak. So it's been fun.
Holy mackerel, Bryce McKinley, you do have a story, and I'm not just saying that. You've been through a lot and you've done a lot, man. Wow, it's kind of hard to top that. Let's try though. So, as far as wow, that's a really tough one to follow. So, okay, let's talk about business a little
We're
bit.
freestyling, right? You said we're freestyling.
I like that. You know what I mean? I totally like that. Like thinking on my feet, and I like people, people are going to be watching this to listen to this, and I want to make sure that you could think on your feet, because I want these people to, make sure that they can believe in you. And if you could think on your feet, they can probably believe you. So, all right, what's the one real estate gig that you think can, help, someone who's a solopreneur, entrepreneur, real estate investor, probably the person listening to this might be, generally they have pretty good net worth. Let's just say whatever, couple million, $5 million net worth, let's say. And most of them are real estate investors, and they want real estate ideas,
Gosh, to narrow it down, there's so many different, avenues and ways that you can go. It really depends on your personality type. If you're outgoing, sales oriented, someone like myself, wholesaling and fixing and flipping is the way to go. If you're more data driven, in the weeds with the details, you might enjoy, project management, multifamily with the analyzing of deals. You're going to do 1 or 2 deals a year, right? For large profits, where I can do the same thing in 30 days with 50 properties, right? It just depends on your personality type. But I think the one thing overarching that doesn't matter which avenue or route that you take is our conversations. I'm a true firm believer, a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming. I believe that everyone needs to learn to have better conversations, and everyone needs a coach or a mentor in their life. Those are 2 of my fundamental, core values I live by. I've got 5 or 6 coaches at any time in my life, and I'm always learning the art of communication because it's changing every day.
Yeah, I get it. So you coach. That's one of your big things. You coach real estate, probably investors or people who are trying to become real estate investors.
I have. The last 2.5 years or so, I kind of shut my speaking down and my coaching down, just to pursue ministry and venture. We started a new wholesale company, but it's around a tech stack. And so we closed, several hundred transactions this first year in business so far. And I've not walked the property yet. And we've done it all from phones, completely virtual. And so my first company was virtual before virtual was a thing. I walked 7 or 8 properties and several thousand transactions. And now we're eliminating the need for that. All of our employees are overseas in third world countries, helping us build this. It's been a really fun experience. So.
Wait a minute. Okay. Before, when I said you had a cool story, now it's even cooler. Explain a little bit more, and maybe who knows how someone could get involved. I'm digging this, especially if you could do everything from your phone and hanging out in your little jammies or by the pool,
Yeah. So, see, this was 2012, 2013. I had, partnered, it was about 2012, 2013. I partnered with a business partner at the time, and they were already attempting to do things virtual, before virtual was a thing. They had a physical office, but everyone was meeting there and doing things from that office, right? And then right before our exit, we decided to kind of go and start working from home, sold the building and proved the model. And then things happened, right? We made an exit. One of our partners got married. The other one moved out of the country, and it just didn't operate the same way. And after taking some time off, regrouping, speaking and coaching, I'm like, gosh, we can do that again, but we can do it better. And with my business partner's experience and we came back, built out an app. We're still in the process of fine tuning things. It's not ready for the public yet, but I mean, it's like if you were imagine like Salesforce and Go High Level and ClickFunnels, like all in one place, backed with a back office. that operates social media and marketing campaigns and CRM data management and KPIs and Asana boards all in one place with a, I call it a timeline. I'm big picture. My business partner would call it something else, but almost like a Gantt chart where you can walk a deal from A to Z, depending on how it's status, what the disposition is, things like that. And then it, parlays it out to the appropriate departments. And so you're not in the weeds with 20,000 different things. You are putting a specialist in a role that's managing the widget, right? And doing really well on that one thing. And it works really well.
Is it only for real estate investors, or is it for whatever, if you sell widgets too?
I think in the future, I've got these 7 steps to business that comes to mind, right? Like there's 7 steps to every business, whether you're selling cars, AC units, windows, siding, houses, business is business. And so I think in the future, down the road, it'll become, a title company, it'll become a mortgage company, all of those things. Right now, we're focused on the wholesale business because that's been the quickest path to cash. And that's every investor's, need, right? More cash. So right now that's our focus, but I'm pretty confident that you can structure and we'll be able to white label it or sell it off to just about any business.
Look at you. And when do you think that's going to be available, or really, or scalable, or either one?
3 to 5 years is our goal.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So we're hitting 3-year strides right now. So it's looking like we'll meet that. But we're just over 18 months in. So it's still, oh gosh, we forgot about this. Let's redo some things. We're still figuring it out.
I will say, there needs to be a one-stop shop for an app that does everything. You know what I mean? Go High Level is a good example, in my opinion. And I think Salesforce is a big, because you mentioned Salesforce. Salesforce is I think of it just as a CRM, but it's a big, beefy CRM. And it sounds like you're going to be linking everything together, having truly everything in one spot. I would think that's pretty cool, especially if you could white label it too. I like that.
And the fun part about what I see and what I envision is you can do away with those other products and service with what we're building. I mean, you don't have to, worry about all the different APIs and backlinks and connections. It'll be all in one place. All you'll have to do is essentially connect your Google or your Apple account and however you're managing, depending on what type of user you are. I'm a Google guy myself. We just, so.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's what you got going on. That's what's sounds like that's going to be the result of a lot of hard work over whatever number of years. And then also it's probably going to bring you a lot of dough down the road. It's going to help some end user clients too, from the sounds of it.
Hoping so.
Yeah. Well, of course. So tell me a little bit more about this real estate stuff, because you have other stuff, with respect to real estate that I think people want to see and hear. So, throw out a couple of ideas that, can add value to, again, a solopreneur, someone who's pretty loaded, et cetera.
I guess I would ask you to be more specific, but I'm thinking on my toes, right? If I were to be able to do things over and had an excess amount of cash laying around and doing the thing, I would probably focus on lending more than I would, building some sort of, transactional business, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still learning that, because all I've done in this business for the last 15 years is wholesale and or fix and flip, right? And buy and hold, of course. I've got a rental portfolio, but to do it all over again, I would probably, knowing what I know now, I would do a lot more lending. So if you've got cash laying, I'm always taking some. So.
Look at you. Yeah. So, and just to let you know, I'm sure you know this, but we are we've been around since 1969. I took over in 2006. So we do tax, finance, and artificial intelligence for entrepreneurs, right? Meaning we try to lower tax liability and also help with the finances. And one part of that finances would be commercial property finance. So meaning lending. Either our clients lend a heck of a lot of money to commercial property deals, or we have relationships with banks and other private institutions that lend out money. So I like the fact that you say that that's one of the things one of the paths down where you go. So give a little bit more information about the lending as an idea, because I mean, we jealously like the thought that you might be suggesting that to people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different avenues in every avenue, right? There's so many different branches. I mean, if you're just trying to dip your toes in the water, there are people like myself that sometimes need transactional lending, bring 5 to 7 grand to the table, and in 48 hours, I'm going to give you, 7 to 10 grand back. Right. There are, short-term private money, hard money loans that you can tack on, 10, 12, 15, 20% interest, depending on the risk. And then of course, there's a lot bigger deals, like you mentioned, some, funds that you can jump into, throw some money in there, sit on it for 3 to 5 years and exit with a group, for some larger returns. But there's just so many different avenues. Me personally, I came from the automotive industry. I like the in and out quick money. That's just who I am. And I like to be in control of my money. So you talked about financial services, right? So it's like I set these financial goals, and then I tend to lend to myself off of my life insurance, right?
Oh, look at you. Do you really infinity investing?
Yeah. A matter of fact, James Netherly, if you've read the book, Becoming Your Own Bank by Nelson Nash,
Yeah.
James, his prodigy that he talks about in the book, is a personal friend of mine here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and does all of that for me. And it's been really cool, because not only, am I learning along the way over the last, 10, 11 years since I've been working with him, but I'm able to show my wife, who is, very stereotypical of her culture, right? She is Asian descent and very methodical and very, conservative on her risk taking. And we've been able to learn this together. And she's like, when's the next policy coming? What's the next project? And so that's been really fun to see, right? So, we hit these mile markers, these cash ceilings. And as soon as we do, we typically buy, couple more policies with some riders on them. So that's been really fun.
Look at you. So, we probably don't do enough of those, banking yourself, infinity investing, private vault investing. I think I helped one of my buddies who's an attorney write a book on that. So let's go into that. I'm impressed that you even know about it, because I don't think enough of the marketplace knows about that. By the way, I don't think it's a fit for everyone, but man, when it's a fit, it's a really good fit. So
I'm not an expert. Let me just tell you, let me preface this. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning, as I said. So I'll do my best.
I get it. Basically what you're doing is, instead of going to the bank, let's just say, what you're doing is you're funding a life insurance policy. And instead of going to the bank and asking for money, begging for money, you pull money, generally speaking, obviously there's a lot of caveats. You pull money out of your life insurance policy and invest that usually into real estate, and usually you're leveraging it. I mean, I'm being way overly simplistic, but that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, that's it. And what I love about it is when they hand you the money, on the bottom line, or if you're looking at your statement, it still looks like your money's there, and it's still accruing interest, right? It's almost as if it's two separate. I look at it like two separate balance sheets.
It is.
There's
It really
the
is.
loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm paying myself back on one side, but on the other side, it's still accruing interest as if my money's sitting there. And that's what I think is really cool about it. And my wife is, equally the same. She's like, what? Still, she didn't get it for the first year or two. So
plus, by the way, you still get a death benefit. Obviously, it could be subtracted for the loans or whatever the case is, depending on the circumstances. But I think that's pretty smart. So we have one attorney, smart dude in California, who, he puts into his defined benefit plan, which we administer, we're the consultants on, 200 grand, right? So in California, let's just say he saves whatever. Let's say it's $80,000, whatever the number is, right? Everyone's situation is different. So the tax savings that he gets from doing his contribution, he puts that into a life insurance policy, at least sometimes, right? And then what he's just about starting to do is pull money out, leverage it, let's say 2-to-1, right? And then he's going to be doing commercial property deals. So, and then what he's going to do is take the income that's coming out of, let's say, the commercial property, and then living on it, right? So, although he's not retired, but down the road. But does that make sense? And so basically, in the way he looks at it, it's not totally accurate, but the government is basically paying for him to invest in a life insurance policy that's his own bank and giving him income going forward. It's a pretty smart dude.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun when you learn that you have so many more options, right? They don't teach this stuff in school. Right?
No, that's so technical. I'm really proud of you. How many you don't have to tell me. How many policies do you have?
I think. So my wife has 4. I've got 6, and I've got 2 on my son right now.
Yeah, look at you. Nice work. Nice work. Yep. And you don't market those, do you? Or do you market that also?
No.
Yeah.
No. I've heard of that. I haven't. I don't know. Maybe it's the conservative side of me coming out that I don't know. a little stingy. I'm going to take it for myself, but no, I have not.
I get it. I get it. Because what do you market? It sounds like right now you don't really have a. Well, I'm sure you do have something you could sell, but right now you're working on a big time project, which is taking a lot of your time from the sounds of it.
Yeah, that's the majority of really what I'm working on is this new company and this venture, right? This tech stack. Um, I don't really market anything other than that. You know, we're
Mm-hmm.
buying houses, whether it's a wholesale assignment as an exit or it's a a hold or a flip. That's our primary market is direct to seller right
I get it. I get it. What about AI? Are you going to be using AI in your new app?
now. Oh yeah. So I'm actually really good friends with some of the founders of Air AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've incorporated a lot of that and helped them build that out all the while, using that to make calls to sellers, follow up, comments, things like that. A lot of our review requests are automated and AI integrated
Yep.
as they get to certain statuses or in
Yep.
the process, right? It triggers, AI, and not true AI, right? There's so many different variations of that, but yeah, for sure. For
Yeah. I
sure.
think.
It
I
can
mean,
snap.
we've been using AI since 2018. I've researched it since 2010, and it's been a huge deal it's totally revolutionized our business because now sometimes we can lower the cost of some of our services because, well, we could provide a much more efficient process, obviously tech savvy as a result of, having to use labor where we would have to raise the cost to the end user client. So I think AI has been a huge deal to us. And now I think a lot more people now are using AI in apps, et cetera, et cetera. It's helping the marketplace as well.
What are you, I'm just curious, what are you using it for primarily?
So basically, we are our, if you will call it our model. Sometimes they call it that. It's called
Mhm.
Einstein, and basically we use it to lower tax liability. So
Mhm.
we get all the information from the client, input it. We can determine, hopefully prognosticate what the tax liability would be, and then
Sure.
ask it questions. Ask the, if you will, model ways to strategize and lower the tax liability. And we've been doing it since 2018. It's worked out pretty well. It's helped us in the marketplace. If we could market, we'd be huge, I'm sure.
Sure. Sure. That's cool. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
it's worked out pretty well. Dude, hold on. I want to ask a little bit more about your app because now you got me all excited about this app. Because I mean, and what we're doing is we're using a couple different vendors and we're putting our Einstein model on top of the vendors. So, meaning for your app, so it's going to be, I mean, truly a one-stop shop for everything from the sounds of it, right? So
Yeah.
that's got to be. I'm going to ask you some business questions, and you don't have to tell me the amount, but I'm just curious. That must be a massive cash outlay, right? So,
Yeah.
and you're the one who's in charge of kind of the model of it, the business model of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, my partner Jacob. So again, I'm learning to be a CEO because
Yeah.
I've been a consultant most of my life, right? I've come into businesses, kind of played puppeteer. So I'm learning that CEO role as it comes naturally to me, but fine tuning those things, right? My
Mm-hmm.
business partner Jacob comes from the med tech and fintech space. He's
Mm.
built and sold over 60 plus businesses, in
Dude.
exits of 8 and 9 figures. And so he is the operator, and I'm the money grab. That's what he
Mm.
calls me. So those are our roles, and we try to stay in those lanes. And then Debbie and Jackie are integrators in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
I was going to ask you, how are you pricing that? I mean, maybe that's too granular, but I'm just wondering, how do you price that in? Because I've never had to do that. We've never had to model, price in a model of the sort that you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would probably be a better question for Jacob for sure. I trust him. That's the biggest thing is trust, right? We had a 2-day ordeal shut in before we finalized the business relationship. I had hired him actually for my previous company
Hmm.
to be a fractional COO, and paying him thousands of dollars a week to come in, close to $12,000 a month, I think it was,
Yeah.
to come in, and he completely revolutionized my business in a matter of 2 weeks. And and then and
Huh.
so we sat down over the next several months and told him what I really wanted to do. So that was a fun venture, 3 years ago, deciding to turn everything off.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was because of what I wanted to do and how he seen the vision and could do it. the other part of it was, more spiritual. I was actually doing a podcast just like we're recording now. And I felt, that I was just led. It just kind of came out of my mouth. I truly believe that we are spiritual beings living human experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of came out like, I think I'm being called to shut it down. And the host at the time was like, well, if you're going to do that, coach, you better set a goal. And I'm like, of course, and so I set a goal to have 3 speaking engagements by the end of the year. At that time, this was 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and around my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And the inevitable came within less than a week. I had 5 speaking engagements, one of which being at the Senate at the U.S. Capitol. One was in D.C. at the Museum of the Bible, and another was at the World Economic Forum, sharing my testimony on one of their stages, which was just crazy to me.
Dude, that's next level. Nice work. So, all right. So you're a thought leader in that regard. So, I'm going to ask some questions because a lot of people, I think, want to be thought leaders, want to take stages. What are some of the strategies you've used to get up on those stages? Because obviously you've gotten 5 stages within a week or 2 or whatever. I'm sure you've been able to get on more stages, and that was 3 years ago. What strategies have you employed to get on stages that will help some of our watchers and listeners?
That's a great question. So I think what I've done is just a natural servitude and attitude, right? So I go to a mastermind, I'll network, not with the attendees, but I'll network with the speakers and or the host and see how or what, they need and compliment them and spend time with them, understanding how and what they're doing and what some of those challenges are, and then of course, there's always an opportunity to serve there when they're sharing those vulnerability points, if they allow you to. I think, one of my greatest personal accomplishments, I had a dream and a desire to serve or speak with John Maxwell, right? He's the godfather of faith and leadership in the speaking arena and coaching. And I was at a speaking engagement doing exactly that. I was speaking at the door-to-door convention up in Salt Lake in Utah. And speaking with, Bradley and there was 5 or 6 other guys. I don't really remember, but John Maxwell was one of the keynotes on the second or third day. I was on day 1. He was on day 2 or 3, and had an opportunity in passing. I seen him in the green room a little early, and I just came in, and I remembered from a previous event that I had been to that it was his birthday, and the host know that. And it was also the host's birthday. And I'm like, dude, you need to come with me. I just kind of grabbed him by the hand or the arm. And I'm like, dude, watch this. And I walked him into the green room, and I'm like, John, Bryce McKinley, I spoke yesterday. I was the keynote yesterday. I know you're coming up later today. I wanted to pray for you. But before I do, I wanted to introduce you to the host, because as a speaker, we don't always get to meet the host.
That's true.
People think, the host is putting everything on. They know all these people. They usually don't, because it's usually their assistant and or our assistant, right? Collaborating and connecting, and
which is crazy, but that's totally true.
Yeah. And so here I seen him in the green room. I grabbed the host at the time and I walked back into the green room, and I'm like, you guys are both share the same birthday. Did you know that? And next thing you know, here I am having an opportunity to pray over the both of them. And then John and his team actually brought me back. He gave me his personal cell phone number. And I'm like, I've idolized this guy as a leadership guru, for years. And now I'm praying over him, and he's hired me twice since to come in and teach his, executive team sales and persuasion around neuro-linguistic programming. So it's
no way.
I would say the answer, that was a long answer, but serve first, right? Zig Ziglar said it best. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have anything you want in life. And I live by that. So
look at you. Plus, you're doing the right thing by going to the power, and the power in that case are the speakers and also the host. I mean, that makes sense. You got a lot of stuff going on behind you. You're pretty, you can tell you're pretty laid back dude, and you're not one to brag about yourself, but you've done a lot. And obviously, I think you've just in a short time we've spent with one another, you've added some value to the watchers and listeners. You know what I mean? It's pretty impressive.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So kind of in closing, what's one thing we haven't talked about that, it would be nice to, get out there? So, who knows, maybe you want people to get a hold of you about the app or, one little tidbit, one little gem that you think needs to be out there.
Gosh, that to me is a tough question. As I said, when we first started, before we went into this recording, I'm not promoting anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not. I recently took a role as the evangelism director at my church. I'm doing outreach every month. We do pizza parties for the homeless once a month from 7 a to 7 p and do a big block party and have a couple thousand homeless people in Dallas show up to hang out. So for me, it kind of boils down to my convictions. And I know that this is probably not a faith-based, podcast, but at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is our souls.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that at some point, inevitably, whether you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or you're in your teens, you're gonna die. You are born to die sooner than later on some occasions, and sometimes later than others. But I figured something out. I was in meditation almost a year ago, and I had this aha moment. And the aha moment was this: we live life in two parts. Some live at 50-50, some live at 70-30, but these two parts are like a bowl or a cup. And in that bowl is what we call our identity. So for me, it was entrepreneur, it was business owner, it was millionaire, it was dad, it was husband, it was brother, son, right? Friend, whatever. These labels, sales expert, right? Some of the biggest gurus out there, they have coaches, and I've coached a lot of them. Am I bragging? No. But those become labels or identities that we create. And the moment that we realize that none of that matters, because one day you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens after death? Unless you know that you could pick from any variation of religion, but they all point back to the true one creator.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be proven scientifically, emotionally, spiritually, and biblically. And I'm not preaching religion. I'm telling you right now that you are going to die and your soul will live forever in one of two places. And he proved that by being human, and he proved that by dying, and 3 days later raising from the dead, and thousands of people and many other religions pointing back to and have validated this. He rose again and shared what happened in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell you, if I had one message to leave, it's just trust Jesus. That's the one message, all of the other things come in business. You look at King Solomon, you look at, David. These are humans that you can look at in other articles and other historical documents, and they were some of the wealthiest, most prosperous men. And yet the books that they wrote are in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, go dig into Proverbs, go dig into the Psalms and look at the lament and the struggle that they dealt with, and then how they overcome it to become what would be in today's world, 10 times the equivalent of a Elon or a Gates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys had 10, 15 times what these guys have today back in the era. And yet their manuscripts, their journals are in what we call as, Christian believers, the Bible. So that would be my one thing. Trust Jesus. You don't have to get all religious. I'm not. Dude, if I shared all my story, I am gangster. I cuss a little bit. Like, call Jesus bro. I am not your Christian religious person.
Yeah.
I have a relationship with him, and that would be one thing if I had to leave something with him.
Well, with that being known, I mean, that's a good way to close the show. It really is, because I think some people, I probably don't talk about faith and religion enough, and I'm glad you're on here to talk about it, because who knows, maybe it's going to spark someone to do something, walk Jesus's path. I really appreciate you being here, and that reminds me, everyone who's here, I totally appreciate you guys being here. I mean, you could be spending time watching ESPN, you could be spending time watching whatever sporting event, Netflix or whatever. I really appreciate you taking the time here, Bryce, and everyone out there. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to be on the show. or watch the show, listen to the show. Once again, Kenner French with vastsolutionsgroup.com. You're listening and watching Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, man. That was good.